Welcome, everyone. This is the first session of MVIS 5702.1, Visualization in Practice. My name is Adam Korngold, and I will be your instructor for the course. In this first session, we're going to cover 7 main topics, which include the course overview and foundations, datasets and MICA's AI policy, our project journey and key milestones for our course, the project deliverables and the timeline for those deliverables. We'll also talk about critique in professional practice and some support resources and success strategies through MICA. And we'll close with your project brief that is due next week as the first step in your working prototype for your class project. Let's start with an overview of the course. My name again is Adam Korngold. I'm an analytics lead at the National Library of Medicine, which is one of the institutes at the U.S. National Institutes of Health. I've been in business research and data visualization really since 1999. I've been in the field long enough that I can remember when we started off doing data visualizations, we didn't even call it that. We just called them the charts and graphs that go into the report. Over the last 25 or 26 years, I've worked in government, companies, and nonprofits to use data visualization to simplify and clarify really complex ideas for different audiences. I'm a member of the Data Visualization Society and the Society for American Baseball Research. Before we go any further, I just wanted to make a quick note of the fact that this is the first time that we've delivered this course asynchronously. And I just want to underscore that it's a work in progress. So there will be things that work really well. There might well be things that don't work so well. And there are some unique challenges that we encounter as we pioneer this new format. Those include maintaining engagement across time zones, building a collaborative environment, not just remotely, but also asynchronously, and ensuring clear communication outside of real time, as well as managing our workflows across all of our different schedules. We'll do this in several ways. We'll hold structured Canvas discussions every week. We'll also have flexible and optional office hours that you can join if you do want to have a conversation with me and or with other students in the class. We'll also offer detailed access to class recordings and other materials. And we'll have clear communication channels so that we can all stay in touch. In order to make this work, attending sessions is really important. Attendance and participation account for 20% of your class grade. And while we don't have synchronous class sessions in this learning model, participation will include taking part in all 8 class discussions, as well as the Makeover Monday activity that's due in week 3, 2 weeks from now. I also wanted to touch on MICA's policy for using artificial intelligence in classwork. While this may not be immediately relevant to our class, students have already started to use generative AI to generate text and to generate ideas. And that's okay as long as we follow these 3 rules. First, that any use of generative AI in classwork needs to be cited appropriately using Chicago or Associated Press citation guidelines and including the prompt that you used to generate output. Secondly, consult with me before you use AI in classwork. And third, maintain critical awareness of the benefits and drawbacks of using AI, such as the fact that AIs hallucinate and that they do present clear challenges for intellectual property infringement. In other words, not citing an AI, or sometimes AIs can use copyrighted material in generating their text or especially images. So it's important to be mindful of that as we go forward. We're also going to have a stakeholder representative for this class who will be collaborating with us as a subject matter expert. They're coming from an established, reputable data source. In the past, we've had collaborators from institutions like ProPublica and Bloomberg News. They will introduce themselves separately, and you will be required to use a data set from their source. You can supplement it with other data sets, but you must use a data set from that person's organization. Now let's talk about our project journey and our key milestones. This supplements the syllabus that you'll find on Canvas. Our 5 learning objectives for the course are to gain perspective of what a career in data visualization entails, to understand how to navigate the relationship between project design and aesthetics, and meeting the audience, clients, or stakeholders' expectations. We also want to learn how to elicit feedback from peers, users, and stakeholders, and to integrate feedback into our design in a way that strengthens the overall project. We'll learn how to create a visualization and a narrative that conveys an understanding of the design process, and we will create a portfolio-level visualization that evolves with feedback. So there are a couple things that I think are really valuable about this class. The first part is that this is the first class probably that you've taken where you will be incorporating everything that you've learned in the program so far. So you can consider this as your first opportunity to really integrate all of those things into a portfolio quality project. The other thing you can consider this course as is almost like a dry run of your capstone experience, which we'll talk about more in the course. But this is your first integrative effort at creating a portfolio level design project. So there's a lot that we'll learn in this class that you will take away into the next 2 classes. Our 8 weeks together are divided into 3 parts. The first part in weeks 1 and 2 is pitching. Our deliverable for this project is our project pitch that is due in week 2 next week. The key components of this brief are your data set, your audience, your goal for the project, and also your data and storytelling format. Then in the middle 3 weeks of the course, weeks 3, 4, and 5, we focus on sketching and wireframing. The final deliverable for this part of the class is your minimum viable product, or essentially an early draft, first draft of your final class project, which is due in week 5. And the key components for this part of the class are your wireframe or storyboard, which you will do for week 4, and that MVP that I just mentioned. So that minimum viable product is the first draft of your final project. And over the final 3 weeks of the course, we will be testing, critiquing, and presenting your final project. The deliverable due in week 8 is your final prototype for the class project. And the key components include user testing, critiquing, and those final class presentations that I mentioned. Let's go into a little more detail about those deliverables. Your project pitch is due for week 2 by Friday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a short 1 or 2 pages or slides outline of key components of your project. And again, there are 4 components here. First is the audience that you intend to address. Second is the question that you intend to address. The third is your data set that you intend to use. And 4 is your storytelling and visualization approach. So how will you craft a narrative? What will you say over the course of that visualization? It's important to note here that that project can and will evolve over time, especially between the pitch and the wireframe. But those 8 weeks do pass very, very quickly. So while there's certainly time to make course corrections, and if you find that a data set isn't working quite the way you want to, or your visualization approach isn't working quite the way you want to, that's okay. You can make adjustments. But this being such a quick class, this probably isn't the time to try something with an application or a technique that you've never done before, unless you're willing to kind of time box that. And if it doesn't work out for you, that's okay. You can go back to another approach. The second set of deliverables are the wireframe that's due week 4 and the minimum viable product, or MVP, that's due week 5. So these are, especially in the wireframe, that's your storyboard. That's a very rough proof of concept for the final project. It can even be hand-drawn on a piece of paper. The minimum viable product, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about this in week 5 of the course, is more of a rough draft of the project. It doesn't need to have all of the interactivity features and attributes of the final project, but it should be a first draft that shows those items that you intend to have, that shows all the elements of the story, the visual elements that you intend to create. The wireframe is due by Friday of week 4 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, and the MVP is due by Friday of week 5 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. The final prototype is due Friday of week 8 by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. And over the last few weeks of the course, we will be doing user testing within the class, and we'll talk more about this later on in the course. This is a stage involving quite a bit of iteration, so you will make changes to it. It will evolve as you receive critiques and feedback from the class. And we'll be doing final video presentations and critique in week 8. So those elements will be due again by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time in week 8. The intent here is to give you a final prototype that is suitable for your portfolio, but that you can also iterate on further. Other assignments that we'll have include weekly discussions each week on Canvas. And for week 3, we will have a Makeover Monday project. To do this, you can go to this website, https://makeovermonday.co.uk. Each Monday, this group publishes a new draft visualization and a data set, and the challenge is to recreate that visualization, but to do it kind of on your own terms, and to do it in a way that you like and that kind of adheres to your preferred style. So to participate, just rework that data set scheduled for week 3 and share it to Canvas by that Friday of week 3 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also share that to your socials, and this is a great way to interact with other people who do data visualization. People do comment on those kinds of posts, especially on LinkedIn or even Instagram. It's a really good way to get involved in the data viz community. For next week, the things that are due include your project brief that's due by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday evening of next week, week 2. Readings to get you into the frame of mind for developing briefs are from Duarte and Kirk. These are the 2 required texts that you will see. They're on the syllabus as well. They're widely available. The key points here are that project briefs are a roadmap, a changeable one for the project. And the other important thing to remember is that your role as a visualizer bridges analytics, communication, tactics, and strategy. So what's in the brief? What should you be writing up for next week? Again, 4 components: the problem or question that you're hoping to solve, the data that you're planning to use, the audience that you're planning to reach, and the storytelling approach that you're planning to take, including any ideas that you have about specific visualization elements. Now remember, this brief is a stake in the ground. Any of these elements might change by the time the project is done. So feel free to say what you think you might want to do, but again, we're going to have time to iterate and discuss this here. There's a template posted in the week 1 module on Canvas that you can use as a model for your own pitch brief. So Don't overthink this. Don't spend more than about an hour on it, because again, you are writing down some initial ideas that will be refined over time. Next, let's touch on the role of critique in our professional data visualization practice. As one of America's oldest art schools, MICA has a basis in honing our abilities to offer objective feedback. And as an institution, we tend to defer to Edmund Burke Feldman's model of art criticism. He was a well-known art history professor and critic who developed a critique methodology for the fine arts. Now, of course, because we're visualizing data for business and organizational management and not for creating sculpture or paintings, we can adapt his model to suit our work. And this will help us develop a really essential skill, which is delivering and absorbing objective feedback. So here's the Feldman model adapted for data visualization. It's a 4-stage process. We first describe what we're seeing. What visual qualities do we perceive? Is this a visually clear way and compelling way of presenting the information? Next, we analyze. How does this visualization use formal principles of information design? How are data structured and presented? Is that clear? Is that understandable, especially to a broad audience? Next, we interpret. What is the overall goal of the visualization? What insights or calls to action does it promote? And finally, we evaluate. How successful is the visualization at achieving its goals, and how might the visualization be even more effective? Finally, let's go to some support resources and success strategies for the class. I will hold optional office hours from noon to 1 p.m. on Eastern Time, or if that time doesn't work for you, don't hesitate to email me and we can schedule another time. Let me be very clear by saying that attendance at these office hours is completely optional. I can schedule additional hours as you need. We can also meet in many additional ways. We can communicate via email, Canvas Messenger. You're also welcome to add me to your class's Slack channel. Many classes have done that, cohorts have done that in the past, and that's often a great way to keep in touch as well. We will also have weekly Canvas discussions. If you go onto the Canvas site for this course, under the Discussions tab, you will find a weekly discussion. It's also listed under the module for each week. Participating in this discussion is required. This is part of your class participation grade. You must post at least one outgoing message each week based on the prompt that's in that discussion by Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. And you must respond to at least 2 of your classmates' messages, original messages, by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time to receive full credit for that week. If you have any questions, my virtual office door is always open. Feel free to reach out through Canvas or via email. You can also record a video and send that to me if you prefer. Also remember the optional synchronous office hours every Friday from noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. The weekly discussions are also a good place to raise general questions or challenges, and the kind of default structure that we have for each one of those discussions is almost like an agile development meeting where we just post 3 bullet points. What did we do last week? What do we plan on doing this week? And what blockers are we encountering? So that's a really good place to raise specific challenges that you might be encountering about the class or about specific deliverables. And there is absolutely no such thing as a stupid question. So with that, that concludes this